Part 28. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 271. That light cruiser Helena who came from the ship girl headquarters, she left with Sugu. Do they know each other? Lindy and Chi Bolin were talking. She saw Helena leaving with Sugu from a distance, leaving Chi Bolin standing there, so she walked up. The matter of the deep-sea flagship has been resolved, and some teachers and instructors from the college have returned to the college again. As for Lindy, she will stand up when necessary and fish professionally when unnecessary. Regarding this, Chi Bolin actually didn't know. After all, she was not Sugu's ship girl. Although Shi Kung told her many things, such as that Sugu had a garrison in the past, and everyone was the ship girl of that garrison. She said it, but she didn't introduce to Zeppelin one by one how many ship girls there were. In fact, even she couldn't tell them all. After all, from a certain perspective, Akage doesn't pay much attention to other things except eating, and he is also quite unreliable. After listening to Akage's story, Chi Berlin searched for information about Sugu's garrison, but he couldn't find it at all. There was no way to explain it, no way to get into it, and it was impossible to force anyone to give an explanation. She still remembers Yamato Fukumai's misery when she wanted to do something like that. Zeppelin said, "I don't know. I followed him here. I thought something was wrong. After all, I am the only one in the townhouse who knows the most about the ship girl headquarters." Linda said, "You actually don't know." At this time, two people were standing by the wall. "That's Sugu." Linda said this, thinking that the other party was very low-key when he was in school. "The only thing I know is that the other party has a good relationship with Akage. One of the ship girls is York City, and overall he is a good newcomer. Later, I had a conflict with someone and I abused the other person once. It was then that I realized that the other party was somewhat extraordinary. After all, the hero machine used by York City, even if it was borrowed, showed that he knew some people. But even if the exercise was successful, he did not have any high-profile performance in the end." She was still a little curious about Sugu's garrison. "Although I didn't pay attention to it at first, when Sugu's garrison repelled the deep-sea flagship, no matter what, I became curious about such a garrison." Not paying attention to Lindy's idea of going deeper, Chi Bolin said, "If you can't find it, don't check it. It won't be harmful to everyone anyway." She looked away anyway. "It is better to say that she was used to the strange behavior around Sugu." Linda said, "Helena came over yesterday and felt a little dazed when she heard Sugu's name." She said this, and then saw two people walking out of the garden. Helena put on her coat and hat again, but her long hair that was originally rolled up fell down. At this time, the two of them were talking and laughing, as if they were intimate. There's definitely something weird about them. Seeing Lindy and Zeppelin on the other side, Helena said to Lindy, "You are here, let me tell you, I will leave later." "You?" Helena smiled and said, "I am the Admiral." "But," Sugu explained, "we knew each other before, now we just meet again, don't be surprised." Linda was stunned at first, and then suddenly became angry. Instead of being an admiral, she became a teacher in the academy because she only had destroyers. At this time, I thought to myself, you already have so many ship girls, and now a random ship girl comes from the ship girl headquarters, this is still your ship girl. Isn't this surprising? Why don't you go to heaven? Fall. I left in the morning and returned at noon. Back at the garrison, York City was still practicing how to operate carrier-based aircraft. Seeing the yacht docked at the pier, she quickly ran up to greet Sugu for some reasons, but Chi Berlin, who was now her full-time instructor, was obviously a more important person. When he saw the yacht stop at the dock, York City was about to speak, and then he saw Helena walking out of the yacht. Although she is not as interested in Sugu as Saratoga is, so she doesn't care about the figure. However, as a woman, she is still very concerned about some aspects. She notices the justice on the other person's chest and her whole body moves. Sugu then walked out and introduced, "That is the ship girl I built, the aircraft carrier York City, the first aircraft carrier of the York City class, although among the aircraft carriers in the garrison, it is at the bottom." This is completely correct, but York City suddenly became angry and said to Sugu, "You want to die?" Helena naturally knew who York City was talking about, and this did not prevent her from saying hello and saying, "Hello." Hearing the greeting, York City quickly turned to look at Helena and said, "Hello, hello." Sugai and York City said, "This is the person who came from the ship girl headquarters. The light cruiser Helena is also my ship girl." Helena smiled, York City's mouth opened in an O shape, and said, "The Admiral is so good at fishing boats." "Idiot, you are my ship girl." Returning to the governor's mansion, walking all the way in, I saw Bizai sitting in the sun reading a book in the distance. She was finally dragged up from the quilt by her sister and driven out of the room. Sugu said, "That's Bizai, do you still remember it?" "Uh-huh." Sitting far away, Bizai saw Helena, just glanced at her, and then lowered his head, as if nothing happened. Sugu said, "Bizai has that kind of character." "I know, I remember, she still reads the notebook every day. I'm afraid she won't be able to change it in her lifetime." Sigsby sat on a stone bench by the roadside, Thatcher crawled around on the grass like a puppy, and Sullivan was busy pulling Thatcher away. At this time, the three people were a little surprised to see Helena, and said hello, and then they followed the team. Sigsby said, "Sister Helena is back." Sullivan said, "Where is Sister Helena?" Helena touched the heads of the two little girls and said, "Well, I miss you." Then we saw Leipzig and Exeter all the way. It's a nice day today, so many people are sitting outside. Helena said, "I have been to many people's townhouses. Those townhouses are big, but they are empty and there are no people inside. Sure enough, our townhouse is better. Yeah. In fact, it's all thanks to the game, I dare not say oh." Then Sugu took Helena to the office. Lexington was inside. She looked at Helena and suddenly showed a surprised expression. "Helena. Lexington. How did the Admiral find Helena?" Sugu said, "Helena is now working at the ship girl headquarters. The Colossus asked me out this morning just to see Helena." Then he briefly talked about what happened in the morning. "That's it?" Sugu said, "Admiral Hipper and Blucher work as military police, and Helena works at the ship's headquarters. Not to mention that Hood has now opened a company, and Washington has become a lawyer. They are all talented people." Saying this, Sugu saw Saratoga sitting next to him. The girl was either clinging to him or clinging to his sister, so he wasn't too surprised to see her at this time. Gia. At the same time, Saratoga looked at Helena, who was chatting happily with Sugu. "Without a ring, my brother-in-law can't think about food or tea all day long." She walked to Sugu, stood on tiptoes, and whispered softly, "Brother-in-law, you brought the mistress back." "Sister-in-law, what are you talking about?" "Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 272. Helena, the only being in the light cruiser who can fight. It has the identity of a light cruiser, but has the firepower of a heavy cruiser. Equipped with Kirov's long-range cannon, coupled with sonar and deep drop bombs, thanks to its excellent skills, it is almost a panacea in terms of firepower and assistance. In the original game, whenever a light cruiser was needed, Helena almost always appeared. Because of this, she has attacked with most of them. So it can be said that I know many people in the Tutelary mansion. After talking to Lexington for a while in the office, Sugu decided to take Helena for a walk inside the town hall. Lighthouse, playground for destroyers and submarines, tool room, teaching building, and then walked to the warehouse with Helena. Looking into the room through the lattice window, bags of food were neatly arranged inside. Sugu said, "This is a food warehouse. There are rice and noodles in it, as well as some snacks such as nuts. Anyway, they are all easy to use stored food. Next to the food warehouse, here is the resource warehouse. As you can see, there is nothing in it now, and it has been eaten up by everyone. The entire warehouse can run smoothly, and it has to be said that everyone is a big eater of oil and steel." Helena said, "The previous town government did not have many resources." Sugu said, "So that was before." "That's right. I tried to find you all in vain." "That's all your fault." "Yes, it's my fault. It was already like this," and Sugu didn't argue. Leaving the warehouse, I saw a small house on the roadside. Although Xiaozai is naughty, except for Beizai, Xiaozai is still very polite to most people. At this time, he called out, "Sister Helena." Xiaozai has short pink hair, a round face, and a chubby figure, and looks incomparably cute in the world. At this time, Helena was squatting on the ground. She put her arms around Xiaozai affectionately, touched her head and said, "Xiaozai, you are so cute." The pink-haired head sank deeply into some kind of softness. Seeing the scene from a distance, Leipzig said faintly, "Facial cleanser. Leave the warehouse and take Helena to the dormitory building." Walking in the corridor of the dormitory building, Sugu said, "Now everyone lives on the third floor. In spring, the first floor is too humid, so now everyone lives on the second and third floors. Anyway, these dormitories arrive first. First come, but some of the rooms are considered single-room facilities, which are one room and one bathroom. There are also some large rooms, those are rooms prepared for destroyers. Helena, you can also choose a room now. Not in a hurry." Sugu reached out and knocked on the door of the room at hand. There were cute graffiti on the door. He said, "This is Fletcher's room, Fletcher, Sigsby, Sullivan, Thatcher. Then this is the room in York City, where she lives alone now. This is the room in Exeter, where she also lives alone. She is now waiting for her sister York to come over, but York has never come." Helena said, "Then where is the Admiral's room?" "That room in front." "Can I go over and have a look?" "Whatever, you can take a look if you want." Sugu took Helena to his room and opened the door. The interior of the room was decorated with warm-colored checks and thick blue curtains covered the windows. The room seemed a bit dark. In addition to a bed, there is also a wardrobe and bookcase. There are neat books on the bookcase, although most of them have not been read. Helena looked around and then said, "The Admiral is sleeping with Lexington now." Sugu became silent, and then said, "Do you think the clothes thrown on the chair are from Lexington? Windbreakers, jackets, pajamas, underwear, including the slippers on the floor and the open comics and notebooks, these things all belong to Beizai, and she likes to come into my room. So Beizai doesn't care about anything. It doesn't matter whether she has MVP or not. She will definitely do whatever she wants, and it's a matter of course. If you occasionally say something to her, you will immediately get a rebuttal, 'Am I not the Admiral's wedding ship? Can't I do this?' Even if you say, then you have to fulfill your responsibilities as a wedding host, you want to scare the other person away. However, the other side didn't care, just do whatever you want, touch whatever you want, it's so annoying. As long as you don't disturb me, you can do whatever you want." Although Beizai is cute, hearing such words is enough to discourage people. Helena picked up the black underwear thrown on the ground and could only sigh when she thought of Beizai. Come out of Sugu's room and return to the office. Although it is said to be an office, it is actually a place where everyone gathers, without the seriousness of an office at all. U-47 and U-505 were kneeling on the white sofa, making faces when they saw Helena. U-81 was squatting next to the grandfather clock, teasing his little wolf. Saratoga sat on a single sofa with her legs curled up and a book in her hands. The Prince of Wales stood by the window, shaking a glass of red wine, and saw two people walking in and drank it all. She and Helena have cooperated many times, and they are not inferior in terms of milk volume. She smiled when she saw Helena. Helena, I heard that you are very powerful now. When Helena came back, San Juan and the others began to prepare dinner. The bell rang in the town hall, which was the sound of dinner being served. If there are any special rules in the Toot Larry mansion, then it is definitely one that everyone must gather together when eating. This is Sugu's request. After all, if everyone eats their own dinner during mealtime, then there will be no sense of the guardhouse at all, and it won't feel like a home at all. There is no requirement for breakfast. If you want to sleep in, you can sleep in. Of course, there will be no waiting after breakfast. If you arrive late, you can eat cold food or heat the food yourself. In short, you can do it yourself. Of course, this rule is not very strict and will not be forced on people, but everyone abides by it very well, even the lawless member Bazai. At this time, there were quite a few people in the garrison, and everyone was sitting on a long table. Helena's return did not actually bring much disturbance to the town hall, so it was just a bit of a surprise. However, because Helena came over, she still prepared some extra food. Although most of the ship girls take the food of ordinary people, but there are also ship girls like Akagi who just want to eat and don't worry about waste. Prince Eugen's craftsmanship was average to that of San Juan. At the dinner table, Helena stabbed the ham with a fork, and then recounted her experience of coming out of the garrison and said, "Lafayette is with me now. Atlanta, San Diego, Juneau, they opened a bakery." San Juan was surprised and said, "Sister." Sugu thought of the Atlanta level family, thought of cat ears, and suddenly thought of chocolate and vanilla, feeling a little excited. Kent is also there. I saw her once. She is now working for a company. But I always feel that something is wrong with her, so I hope the Admiral will go and take a look. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 273. Holding the chopsticks with one hand to pick up the food, Lexington put the other hand under his mouth to prevent food crumbs from falling on the table. Lexington looked like a lady. Sigsby, who calls himself a little lady, saw this scene and learned a lot. She did it again, happy that she had learned another trick. She turned her head and saw Xiao Zai picking up rice without any image at all, with oil stains and rice grains stained on his face. If you don't learn well when you are a child, it will be even worse when you grow up. You have failed. Thinking like this, she then saw her admiral reaching out his hand to wipe away the oil stains and rice grains on Xiao Zai's face. At this time, she had no reason to feel that she had failed, and wondered whether she should imitate Xiao Zai. That is what a child should be like. No one noticed Sigsby's little thoughts. As Helena finished her words at the long table, people around her began to think. At this time, only Akagi's chewing sound came out. That's the specific thing. I hope the Admiral will accompany me back to pick up Lafayette. After defeating the deep-sea flagship Yamato, the issue of resource reimbursement must also be dealt with, and then we can go find the Kent together. It's a pity that the city where the Atlanta and the others are located we're not on our way. Upon hearing this, San Juan said, "Then let me go find my sister. If the Admiral has time, then of course it would be best for the Admiral to go, but he doesn't have time, so of course she has to do it at this time." My sister took action. It was a good idea to divide the troops into two groups. Otherwise, one would go north and the other would go south. It would take an unknown amount of time. Sugu said, It's okay, but... Although he said this, he felt that it would be a bit awkward if he didn't go there himself. It's outrageous, and the cat-eared girl is awesome, isn't she? It doesn't matter, I'll just go. After San Juan finished speaking, Saratoga said impatiently, then my brother-in-law and I will go there together to pick up Lafayette and find Kent. Lexington definitely can't leave. She is now a secretaryship. It would be outrageous for both Sugu and her to leave. Otherwise, no one will be in charge of the town hall. Moreover, Lexington still has to teach destroyers. Although these matters can now be left to Zeppelin, in the eyes of those naughty children, Zeppelin really has no majesty. She counterattacked and put a fruit plate on the long table. She was the only one who was good at this kind of fruit plate that only tested her knife skills. At this time, she stood aside holding the plate and said, otherwise, let me go with the master. If it is a counterattack, whether it is taking care of daily life or other things, the counterattack can be completed perfectly. The counterattack can indeed be accomplished with anything, even warming the bed. You can take off your clothes beforehand and get under the quilt, and then come out when it is warm. Although if you want to do something further, you need to give another ring. Saratoga said, counterattack, you leave, what will happen to the garrison? Cold salad. Saying this, he counterattacked and walked away, then returned to his seat. In the beginning, she always used to stand by and wait until everyone had finished eating before eating, saying that was only suitable for a maid. It's just that such behavior was ordered by Sugu in his capacity as admiral or master. Now after she finishes her own work, she will sit at the table with everyone. From what she just said, it was obvious that she just wanted to join in the fun, not necessarily that she really wanted to go together, although no one could guess what her real thoughts were. Otherwise, just let me accompany the Admiral. Bismarck said that he had nothing to do with it, and it was rare for her to express her own opinions. Seeing the enemies appear one by one, Saratoga said again, you are so delicious, our garrison has no resources. Bismarck did not speak, and Prince Eugen said, it's not an attack, and Sister Bismarck can eat, but she has strong fighting power. It's not like you, who will be blinded at night. Saratoga took a hard bite of the apple and said, who do you think has no fighting ability? Saratoga and Prince Eugen were arguing, and Bazai said beside him, where are you going? Is it a big city? Helena said, small city. Then I won't go. No one asked you to go. You can guess what you are thinking with your feet. Saratoga and Prince Eugen chattered endlessly, and Sugu said helplessly, whoever wants to go out to play can go out to play. I have never stopped you, okay, Helena and I will go there this time, soon. Just come back, that's the decision. Lexington served a bowl of soup for Sugu and said, I think this is good. Saratoga said angrily, sister. Sugu made a decision, the quarrel stopped, and everyone ate their own food. How many days are you going to go? Have no idea. Bring some clothes and go over there. It's okay, maybe we can stay for a few days. While things were being discussed here, San Juan looked around and asked, is this how you end the topic? Not only did everyone have to go out, I also had to go out to find my sister. This difference in treatment is really too big. At night, Helena and San Juan sleep in the same room, and San Juan wants to ask more about his sisters. San Juan said, what kind of bakery do they open, sister? Selling bread and cakes, they exposed cat ears, and Santiago also exposed his tail. I think the selling point is the cat. What an unorthodox store. San Juan said this, she saw Helena taking off her clothes, even more immoral and obscene people were here. It is also a light cruiser. Think about the light cruiser in the current garrison. He is one, and Leipzig is also a light cruiser. Leipzig is flat. Although it cannot be said to be peaceful, it can only be said that compared with the people in the garrison, It seems a bit flat. And he is just like that. All in all, the two of them are evenly matched opponents. Seeing Helena at this time, the amount of breasts was second to none even in the battleship. In the garrison at this time, the only one who could compare with Helena was probably the Prince of Wales. The Prince of Wales is the kind of person who dresses to look slimmer and takes off her clothes to show off her flesh. Unfortunately, she doesn't wear her own swimsuit now, so she is still slightly inferior to Helena. Everyone is also a light cruiser, so why are there such big differences? It's almost like cheating. Helena looked at San Juan, and the other person's voice suddenly stopped. She asked in confusion, "What are you looking at? What didn't you see?" San Juan withdrew his gaze and picked up a book at random. Helena said, "You are holding all the books upside down." We had barely said anything before, but now I felt that the other person was an easy person to talk to. San Juan said, "Can I poke you?" "Is that true?" Helena crossed her arms and said, "Can it still be fake?" San Juan poked it with his finger, then withdrew his hand. If you are a human being, you can probably say that when you get older, your breasts will sag, so it is better to be smaller. But as a ship girl, it doesn't matter even if you are older, it is a lifetime capital, so it is unfair. San Juan buried his head in the pillow, then thought of the strongest destroyer Veneto, and suddenly felt that he was pretty good too. Helena and San Juan slept in the same room, and as the night wore on, the little ones went to bed early. Xiaozai slept with Bismarck today, and she didn't disturb Sugu. Of course, that kind of thing was something Sugu couldn't ask for, so it definitely didn't count as an interruption. Xiaozai was not an intrusion, but another person came over to disturb him. Sugu had just taken off his coat. At this time, the door was pushed open and Saratoga, wearing white pajamas, ran in. Sugu said, "Aren't you sleeping yet?" "I haven't slept yet." "You want me to sleep so much? Do you want to wait for me to sleep and then ask my sister to run into your room?" Well, that's it, because the two people at the dinner table exchanged glances. Saratoga snorted and did not continue the topic. Then she said angrily, "Why don't you let me accompany my brother-in-law? Helena is a sneaky cat. If you go out with her alone, you will definitely be beaten by her. There's not even a scrap left after eating." Sugu listened to Saratoga's words and thought to himself, "Girl, compared to Helena, who ran to her brother-in-law's room in pajamas, you are obviously more like a sneaky cat." But of course he would not express his thoughts like this. Sugu said, "Don't talk nonsense, I am a serious person." "Is it because of Helena's breasts? You men really like those nasty breasts." "I definitely like it, but of course I have to refute it at this time." Sugu said, "What? If you have to say it, the Prince of Wales is not bad either." Oh, are you still thinking about the Prince of Wales?" "What? Even if it's just an idea, the Prince of Wales is my wedding ship." "Then I'm still your wedding ship." Saratoga said this. She rolled on the bed, then picked up the pillow to cover her head, and then opened it again. "I don't care, you want to marry me, Helena can go out, but you have to kiss her." Sugu sighed. He still loved his proactive sister-in-law. Saratoga is so proactive, and she is also his wedding ship. If he does nothing more, he will really be a scumbag. No forehead, no lips. Lexington wanted to push away his sister's arm holding her waist, and she asked, "What are you doing?" Saratoga looked sad and said, "Brother-in-law is going out with Helena." "When you're out, you're out." "Sister, you don't understand at all, you don't understand." Lexington looked at his sister and said, "Then you have to tell me and I will know." Can't say. Saratoga shrugged her shoulders, thinking that he would do this just to go out with Helena. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 274. Following Helena out of the town's mansion, Sugu didn't take anyone with him because he originally planned to go out within a few days. The city where Helena works doesn't take long to get there by yacht. After all, when she received the news of the appearance of the deep-sea flagship, she sailed from noon to evening and arrived here, and Helena's speed was only more than 30 knots. After breakfast in the morning, we set off and the yacht sailed along the coast. Although it would be faster to walk in a straight line, Sugu habitually ensured that he could see the mainland in his field of vision. After all, the boundless sea always gave him a terrifying feeling. Helena, how do you ensure your direction in the vast sea? Look at the sun during the day and the stars at night, but even my ship girl doesn't dare to sail in the vast sea. Not to mention the possibility of encountering a deep-sea ship girl. If there is no one to accompany her, she will not be able to sail in the vast sea. The feeling of sailing alone in the center is a feeling that even a ship girl cannot bear. Ships sail on the sea, and it takes a long time to travel from one continent to another, but crew members, sailors, and passengers can all find someone to chat with. But it would be very uncomfortable for Sugu to imagine the lonely feeling if a ship girl sailed alone on the sea. If you are going to sail, can you take a book with you? You think you can just let go of the rudder just like you are driving a yacht now? We want to sail on the sea, and we need to stay focused, otherwise we might fall, and if we really want to go somewhere very far, there's no rush. Why not take a boat? It only costs a little money and doesn't have to be so hard. That's right, even if you are a long-distance running champion, if you want to go far away, taking a car is the best choice. Talking casually like this and sailing close to the coast will take more time to reach the destination. At noon, we ate some bread on the yacht, which had been prepared early. By the afternoon, we arrived at the city Helena mentioned. I'll go down first, and you give me the cable. Helena jumped onto the sea. Under the feet of their ship girls, the sea seemed like flat ground. Dropping the yacht's anchor to the bottom of the sea, Helena tied the cable to the bit. Under Helena's command, the yacht docked at the city's dock. After getting off the yacht, Sugu stepped on the stone bricks of the dock and looked around. Low buildings covered with roses, faint neon lights, towering trees, and billboards erected on the roadside. At this time, the entire city here gives people an old feeling, whether it is the houses, roads, or street lights. However, whether the city is prosperous or not, it is difficult for Sugu to comment. This city can become a branch of the ship girl headquarters. It must have its own uniqueness. Sugu said, "Aren't you going back immediately? There should be a port at the ship girl headquarters." He wanted to see little Lafitte right away. Helena's long blue hair was rolled up casually with a hairpin in it. Her appearance immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people. But the world is not that cruel yet. Just by casually appearing on the pier, you can encounter the underworld that robs civilian girls. At this time, because Helena appeared, there were people who were ready to move, but they were not so quick to come up and say hello, especially when Sugu was nearby. Standing on the pier, Helena put on a loose dress at this time to cover up her abundant capital. After all, wealth should not be exposed. After doing these things, Helena said, "If you leave for so long and don't bring a gift to Lafitte, she will probably really hit you with her finger tiger, so we have to buy her some candies and cookies. And toys, she always wanted a ship in a bottle." It's conceivable that Lafitte wants a gift. After all, there are lines like that in the game. Although it is a bit exaggerated to try to infer the character of my own ship girl from just a few sentences, I can still roughly understand what kind of little girl Lafitte is. Buying candies and toys is a very simple matter. Sugu has experienced it many times. After all, there are so many little girls in the guardhouse, and they are experienced in dealing with destroyers. Helena led the way and passed through a street. Since ancient times, the dockside has been a bustling place, and soon you can see many shops. Want to buy a cake? Lafitte prefers candies that can be sucked for a long time, hard candies. Although Sparrow is small and well equipped, this city looks small, but it has everything it needs. There are many hidden shops along the way. When you walk in, you can see the hideous, well, the things inside are super expensive. Helena said, this county town looks a bit old, but there are also many shops selling luxury accessories. It is the kind of, hidden city with a lot of historical heritage. She looked at the candies on the counter, stretched out her hand to click on them, and said, this, and these, wrap them all up for me. Sugu asked the store owner, how much is it? Admiral, I'll give it to you. I give. Helena retracted her hand, then took the paper bag handed out by the store and said with a smile, Admiral, you are so rich. You are so rich, why don't you help me buy clothes? Sugu smiled and said, that's no problem. No matter what, my salary is still very generous. His salary is indeed very generous, of course it is generous. If he only supports one person in York City, the two of them will definitely be able to live an extremely comfortable life, but it is still not that easy to support a family like this. If the town government wanted to have more funds, it would need to carry out more dangerous tasks, but Sugu still didn't like dangerous tasks. However, the expedition to the garrison was still done occasionally, and there was actually no shortage of money, at least not enough to buy clothes. Have the Admiral taken many people shopping before? No, let's go shopping seriously, Lexington, Saratoga and Bismarck. Where's the Prince of Wales? She has a special tailor, the Queen of Heaven. Won't the Queen of Heaven help you sew your clothes? If everyone wants her help, then she is too busy. Everyone goes out to buy ordinary clothes. Soon I found a clothing store. How about this one, but if you wear a kimono, it will look like Akagya. Wearing a sun hat and a white dress with layers of pleats, it looks like it's the New Orleans. New Orleans number. Sugu didn't have much of an impression. She did have one, but the girl herself had never used it. Sugu said, Quincy, do you know where it is? The New Orleans is the sister of the Quincy. Quincy, I heard that he is working hard to become an idol. Who exactly did he hear from? It seems to be Atlanta and the others. It's fun to go shopping after leaving the small shop on the roadside, especially with a beautiful woman like Helena. Of course, whether it is a beauty or a cute little girl, Sugu will definitely satisfy the requirements of the ship girl as much as possible. Helena said, this way, this way. Then everyone walked into another store. Sugu looked at the products around him. He immediately took back his previous thoughts. Although he wanted to satisfy his wife's requirements as much as possible, but, women's underwear stores, really I can't forgive you. Helena said, it's no big deal, Admiral, you have to adapt. By the way, have you never bought underwear with Lexington? Lexington himself felt shy about such things and would never ask him to accompany him. And not even Saratoga could do something so bold. Helena said, what do you think of this one? What about this one? Helena then put down the underwear in her hands and said, Admiral, let's go. You don't have a choice. Looking at how restless you are. It doesn't matter to me. No need, there is no size suitable for me here. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 275. The Kanyang headquarters is near the seaside, and there are several hollow cement pillars with a diameter of more than 1 meter long placed on the shore. It was originally intended to be a cement column used to build sewers, but I don't know why it has never been used. The cement pillars had been there for some time, and weeds had even grown in the gaps between the cement pillars and the soil. Several cement pillars were formed into a hill. A little girl was crawling around inside the concrete pillars, and there was another little girl sitting on the top of the hill. Someone was operating a carrier-based aircraft on the sea in the distance. Although the sky was getting dark, the sight still did not have much impact on people. Sister Langley is practicing carrier-based aircraft again, but I hate carrier-based aircraft the most. I can't always avoid them. I'm telling you, there are many ways to evade carrier-based aircraft bombings. Do you want me to teach you? Lafayette, you are so powerful, I have never seen you attack before. Isn't that why Sister Helena didn't let me attack? I even fought against deep-sea turpets in the past. Although I only replaced Limbo, the main reason was that she always failed to kill deep-sea turpets. Hey, the little girls around him obviously didn't believe it. Then what will it take for you to believe it? The little girl is called Lafayette and has an older sister named Helena. Although one is a destroyer and the other is a light cruiser, they are not sister ships, but they came out of the same garrison in the past, so they are actually sisters. Raffi was wearing a sleeveless t-shirt, although she preferred her previous sleeveless sailor suit. At this time, she lifted up her clothes and tied them into a knot, then exposed her navel. She always liked to do this kind of thing. For this, she had to be hit on the head several times by her sister Helena, but she still enjoyed it. She was also wearing hot pants and a big belt. Such an outfit would probably be full of temptation for an adult woman. But wearing it on a little girl with short hair can only make people feel energetic. My sister went out yesterday and still hasn't come back today. She went to school for half a day in the morning, had dinner at a friend's house at noon, and simply skipped class in the afternoon. Lafayette is somewhere between a young girl and a little girl. Although she is still a primary school student, she at least looks like a 5th or 6th grade girl. Compared to those little girls, she is like the eldest sister among the destroyers. My favorite thing to say is Lafayette is super powerful. In fact, she is indeed super powerful in the destroyer. At this time, faced with doubts, Lafayette curled his lips and jumped down from the hill of hollow concrete pillars, and then ran to the coast. The man operating the carrier-based aircraft was the Langley. Lafayette patted his chest and said, "Sister Langley, can you use a carrier-based aircraft to attack me?" Of course Langley also recognized Lafayette, and she said, "What's the matter?" I told them that I was best at dodging carrier-based aircraft attacks, whether bombing or torpedoes, but they didn't believe me. Langley looked back and saw a group of destroyers gathered at the ship's headquarters. As Helena's colleague, she said at this time, "Didn't your sister not let you practice and attack? She's not here anyway. Don't you know when she will come back? She should be back soon." Langley thought to himself that the matter of the deep-sea flagship has been solved, and there is no reason to stay there for a long time. But something was probably delayed, and she couldn't just make it up as she wasn't involved. That's okay, but you can't tell your sister Helena. Anyway, in the exercise, the carrier-based aircraft will not actually drop explosives that will explode. At most, it will make the opponent embarrassed. In fact, she also wants to see what happens to Lafayette. How awesome! Lafayette waved his hand and said, "Okay, okay." Then Lafayette stood on the sea, waved to the little girl on the shore, put his hands to his mouth like a trumpet, and shouted, "I will show you how to avoid the attack of the carrier-based aircraft. Sister Langley, you have to work hard." "Well," Raffi shouted, "Lightbulb Langley." A vein appeared on her forehead. Although she knew that the little girl was deliberately mocking her to make her go all out, her bright forehead was her taboo. "Okay, Lafayette, I admit that you succeeded in irritating me, Langley. I am going to use my full strength." The carrier-based aircraft dived from the sky, and Lafayette sailed on the sea. He tilted his body and drew a circle with his left hand pressed on the water as the center. Lafayette's movements could be said to be coquettish, but with the sound of "oops," the black bomb dropped. When it reached her head, Lafayette immediately hugged his head. "It hurts." When the little girl standing on the shore saw this scene, she immediately shouted, "Lafayette, can you do it? It's just carelessness. Now Lafayette has to use his full strength." Langley found it funny. According to normal standards, Lafite was already a mid-level fighter. Can he still fly if he was a mid-level fighter? However, the little girl had no choice but to admit defeat and continued. Flexibly turning around, jumping, turning his head to avoid attacks, there was a huge difference between Lafite's current appearance and his original appearance. Langley was a little surprised. Lafite did scissor hands and said loudly, "Lafite is the most powerful." The little girl on the shore said, "Lafite always has to be injured before he uses his full strength. He has a bad temper and a character that is ready to be beaten." Another little girl, who was obviously surrounded by Lafite, said loudly, "What do you know? That's called exploding." Soon after, Lafite sat back on the hollow concrete pillar, smiling in the shocked eyes of all his friends. At this time, a passerby saw Lafite and said, "I saw your sister, why don't you go back quickly? If you look like this and dirty, you will definitely be scolded when you go back." Hearing that his sister would be back soon, Lafite showed a troubled expression and hurriedly ran back. On the other side, Helena took Sugu to find where they lived. Standing at the door, Helena opened the door with the key, and then said, "Admiral, please stand at the door first. I'll go see Lafite. Didn't you say you wanted to give her a surprise? Okay, then I'll ring the doorbell later, and you ask Lafite to open the door. Wait 5 minutes. Good." Sugu responded like this, and as Helena closed the door, he looked at the couplets on both sides of the security door and thought that Helena really did as the Romans did. Running back to her residence from the shore, Lafite was panting, and then she saw a man standing in front of her home holding a gift. In the past, there were always people who came to Helena, maybe to do something, please make the process faster, or to inquire about the rules of the ship girl headquarters. There are also people who have some evil intentions towards Helena and want to seize the boat. However, no matter who they are, they will definitely bring gifts when they come to visit. This is Lafite's time. Lafite is cute and lively, and everyone likes the little destroyer. Moreover, whether you want to do errands or conquer Helena, Lafite is of course the only way to go, so all the time, candies, snacks, etc., of course, have to be generously offered. It's just that the little girl has no conscience. She peels off the sugar coating and hits the cannonball back. People with evil intentions can't even get in. These people's sense of smell is really sensitive. Sister Helena knew it just after she came back. With this thought in mind, Lafite stretched out his hand to receive the gift and said, "Who are you looking for?" "Sister Helena? If you are looking for her to do something, just give me the gift. But as long as you want candies and toys, don't money, so." On the other side, Sugu originally raised his head, but lowered his head when he heard the sound. Lafite, who had become disgraced from the quarrel all the way, stood there. Sugu recognized Lafite at a glance. After all, it was the destroyer he had always liked. "Although I still prefer the vertical painting before the change, the vertical painting after the change is not bad, and the real Raffi is even more adorable at this time. There is an anchor tattoo on his arm, short orange hair, and the hair on the side of his head is raised, which is somewhat similar to Bismarck's hairstyle. Someone once teased that Lafite was the child of Bismarck and Nelson. Although he had not met Nelson yet, the Nelson instructors in the academy had seen him many times. Sugu looked at Lafite with this thought, thinking that they really looked alike. Sugu put the gift he was planning to bring to Lafite into Lafite's hand. Here you go, take me to your sister Helena." Lafite held the gift in one hand and shrugged his shoulders. "Amazing Lafite, woo, amazing Lafite, woo." The little girl burst into tears. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 276. Sugu didn't expect that the two people wanted to surprise Lafite, but Lafite caught him in the act. Lafite, who was always lively, cute, and full of energy, and liked to smoke a pipe and pretend to be Popeye, actually started crying like this. She stood in the corridor of the stairs outside the house with red eyes. She was not crying in pain, but her shoulders were twitching, her teeth were clenched, and tears were rolling in her eyes. Then Helena, who couldn't find Lafite in the room, so she opened the door and was about to call Sugu, appeared, then she slowly walked into the room wiping her tears. Helena's residence, which looked like a somewhat ordinary two-bedroom apartment, was undoubtedly much worse than a small villa like Admiral Hipper's. But if it was just for living, such a two-bedroom apartment would be more fulfilling. After all, there were only two of them. The floor of the room is paved with warm yellow floor tiles, and there is a sofa and solid wood coffee table in the spacious living room. On the coffee table were a kettle, a fruit plate, a few books and documents, and melon seed shells and peanut shells piled in small piles, which were obviously Lafite's masterpieces. After all, Lafite is a young girl full of energy, not one of those delicate little girls, and her tears stopped quickly. She wiped away her tears and reached out to dig through the gifts Sugu had bought. A ship in a bottle, a small sailing battleship placed inside a transparent glass bottle. A music box, once you open the lid, you can see delicate little figures dancing, and sweet music will also sound. There is also a glass bottle filled with colorful glass beads. There are also candies, many candies, and various candies, such as Christmas candy canes or colorful wave candies. Lafite tore open the package of a wave candy and put it in her mouth. Her whole cheeks bulged. Then she took out the wave candy and shouted, "Admiral! Admiral! Admiral! She kept shouting like this for many times, and finally said, "Admiral, I am the most powerful Lafite." She raised her head and looked at Sugu, as if to introduce herself. Sugu put his hand on Lafite's head, rubbed it, and then touched the raised hair. Bismarck's was not easy to touch, and even Fletcher's was not easy to touch, but I could finally experience it on Lafite's head. Sugu said, "I remember, I am here to take you home this time." Lafite nodded heavily. Sugu remembered hearing Xiaozai mention that she and Lafite were good friends, and then told Lafite about Xiaozai. Lafite opened his eyes wide and said, "Xiaozai?" "Yes. Is Xiaozai also with the Admiral?" "She actually found the Admiral. I should be the one who found her. Sister Lexington didn't even call me when she left. She just likes Sister Gaga." Of course, Sugu briefly talked about everyone's affairs, and when he heard Lexington, Lafite complained like this. Helena peeled an orange and put it on the coffee table. After hearing Lafite's words, she said, "You want to follow your sister Lexington so much, you mean to say that I am not good?" "Of course Sister Helena is the best, but the Admiral is not good." Lafite smiled, showing his cute little fangs and dimples. Lafite sat beside the sofa. She chewed the wave candy in her hand and swallowed it into her mouth, and then continued to play with the candy. After rummaging around, she found what she wanted to eat and put the candy in her mouth again with a smile on her face. Helena started peeling apples again, and when she saw Lafite looking dirty, she said, "Have you finished your homework?" "Ah, She skipped class for half a day, and she didn't know the homework assigned by the teacher. Helena said, "I knew I would have bought you an exercise book with the Admiral." Sugu listened to Helena's words and imagined that scene. He and Helena kept coming back and brought many gifts to Lafite. Later, when Lafite opened the gift box excitedly, he saw several exercises similar to the 3-year simulation of the 5-year college entrance examination inside. I don't know what Lafite's expression will be like when he gets his gift. Maybe his favorability will be reduced by 50. Lafite hugged Sugu's arm and said, "Admiral, you will definitely not do this." It was already afternoon when I came here, and it was already evening when I came back after shopping. The yacht was docked at the pier outside the ship's headquarters, and nothing was done to prevent theft, but I guess no one was so bold as to come here to steal. After saying something like this, Helena stood up and said she would bring dinner back. She then went out and returned a short time later. When Helena came back, she was carrying several bags. These dishes are brought from the cafeteria. Lafayette and I always eat in the cafeteria instead of cooking them ourselves. Helena opened each bag on the coffee table, then went to the kitchen to get a bowl, and then the simple dinner officially began. If you don't eat spinach, you won't grow taller. But I'm already tall enough, so will you grow taller if you eat spinach? Lafayette raised his hand and said, I used to be so short, but now I have grown taller. If I get injured, I will eat spinach, and then I will become super powerful. What she wanted to say was naturally that before there was no transformation, at that time, Lafayette was still a little girl, but unfortunately now she has a lot of strips. I don't have to fight. Sugu didn't want to eat spinach at all. Sugu picked up a chicken drumstick and didn't give it to Lafayette because there was still a lot. He tore the chicken apart and said with a smile, the dinner in your cafeteria is so rich, why do you bring back bowls like this? Helena said, you can bring the buffet in the cafeteria and don't care if you bring it back, work here, you have a house, clothes, and wages. Sugu praised, what a benefit. Lafayette put vegetables into Sugu's bowl and said, Admiral, eat carrots and green peppers, don't be picky. Yeah, I've never been picky about food. Helena said with a straight face, Admiral, you haven't touched the green vegetables. You won't be happy with the meat. And Lafayette, you don't eat the carrots, and don't put them in the Admiral's bowl. Lafayette held his face in his hands and showed a big smile, while Sugu ate the meat and didn't answer. Helena held her forehead, these two difficult guys. Helena said, when I was in the cafeteria, I met our leader. I told her about your matter, and she said there was no problem. Well, regarding the report on repelling the deep-sea flagship, I will give you a template when the time comes. Just copy it and report it directly. While you are still working here, you must gather the wool carefully. At least it's better to gather the resources of a container, otherwise it will be used up casually. Lafayette also understood what was being said, and she said, if she doesn't give us resources, the most powerful Lafayette will teach her a lesson. Sugu looked at Lafayette's confident face and said, is Lafayette so powerful? Helena said, there's really no problem with Lafayette teaching her a lesson. Is your leader so stupid? Since he can become Helena's leader, Sugu naturally has some ability in his heart. Even though his garrison had just repelled the deep-sea flagship, he would not be so naive as to think that he was invincible. After all, the world was bigger than human imagination. Helena said, my leader is the USS Enterprise, the USS Enterprise aircraft carrier. As long as it is attacked by carrier-based aircraft, there is no way to defeat Lafayette. According to the game, Lafayette is completely immune to aerial attacks when he breaks through. Here, it will probably show up as a nimble skill, able to cleverly avoid the attacks of carrier-based aircraft, which is super strong. The only thing that can be done is that Lafayette is only a destroyer. If it faces an enemy that does not use carrier-based aircraft, it may be crushed. Sugu said, if the branches are all Enterprise, then what kind of ship girl should the headquarters be? Even if the Enterprise does not perform well in the game, it is undeniable that it is a very famous existence. Helena said, it's not based on the strength of the ship's equipment. I also heard that the supply ship Vesta has a very high status in the ship's headquarters, the highest quartermaster or something. Admiral, don't look like that, it's an old-timer, not one of our supply ships. I just think of our Lord Suk Bader, the little girl Lord Suk. Helena was non-committal and said, after we finish this matter, we will go find Kent. I remember the last time I saw her, she was in the town next door. I talked to her for a few words, and then she left on business. You know, I'm not very familiar with her, and I still have a lot of things to do, so I never looked for her again. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 277. After dinner, she wrapped up the leftover food and threw it in the trash can. All the bowls were washed by Helena. In fact, it had just been dark at this time. After dinner, Lafayette went to take a shower. It was really boring in this place where there was neither TV to watch nor the internet. Sugu took Lafayette's comics and felt a little bored after reading them for a while. Later, when Rafi came out of the shower, she was wearing a big t-shirt and hot pants that hung down to her thighs, looking energetic and cute. Sugu suddenly wanted to say something, as long as the little girl Lafayette is here, I can play all day long. Helena found an application report for reimbursing a large amount of resources. Except for the amount, name, and battle history, everything else was basically copied. Sugu was copying the report, and Lafayette sat next to him and looked at him. Sugu looked at Lafayette, then at his own handwriting, and thought to himself that his handwriting was pretty good, and he was confident about this. However, it was still a little strange to be stared at like this. After copying the report and putting the pen into its cap, Advisor Su said, Lafayette, what have you been looking at? Admiral, have you finished writing? Sugu nodded, blew the signature paper, and then stamped his seal to show that he had written this report and that he was responsible for it. He said, it's done. It's written, then let's go out and play, Admiral. Come out of the house and go to the courtyard of Ship Niang's headquarters. This is Sugu's first time here. Well, to be precise, this should be the first time to take a good stroll inside, because originally I followed Helena straight home. There are sweet-scented osmanthus trees and banyan trees planted in the yard, surrounded by flower beds and well-greened. Stone tables and benches were placed under the dense tree canopy, and street lamps were erected along the roadside, illuminating the surrounding area with warm yellow lights. While walking in the compound, Sugu realized that this place was actually not too big, and looked a bit like the rural government in his memory. But he remembered that when he first came here, he passed by a very large port, with large warehouses densely built on it, filled with containers, and what seemed to be gantry cranes and slipways. Helena said, when we came here, it was a shipyard with shares in our ship girl headquarters. After all, as long as it has something to do with the sea, we would be more or less at a disadvantage. In fact, even if we don't want to get involved, the company also insists on our participation, and feels that only if we join can we be guaranteed. Human beings are always worried about such things, thinking that everyone is only a friend if they have common interests, but the ship girl talks about feelings. But that's it, there is no such thing, otherwise where will your generous salary be paid to you? Have you seen that man? He used to be an admiral, but he stopped being an admiral later and now works in the shipyard next door. He just goes there every day and has nothing to do with him. He is not an engineer and there is no need for him to be a worker. Every day in the past, he just sat in the office and read newspapers. In his words, it was early retirement. Sugu said with a smile, my previous ideal was to go to work every day, drink tea, read newspapers, and wait until death. He is not a person with big ambitions. Think about it, when he was a child, his ideal was to be a scientist. When he grew up, he realized that it was not practical. Practical thoughts. Later, I applied for the public examination to a government department that was idle, so I gave up the game and prepared for the examination. Helena said, leisure is leisure, but he always said that this is not the life I want. Everyone said that more money, less things to do and close to home are the most important points in choosing a job. Now he takes them all. I still feel bad because I feel like life is uneventful. Besieging a city, people inside want to get out, and people outside want to get in. Although he works there, he will come back at noon and come to our canteen to eat. Normal people are not allowed to enter here, such as shipyard workers, because many of them are ship girls, so they still have to go with us. Ordinary humans keep some sense of distance. In fact, I think it doesn't matter much whether we keep it or not. Of course, ship girls are beautiful and many people like them. But most people are self-aware and will not insist on finding a ship girl as their wife. Sugu said, this rule must have been set by the admiral, so it is a man's bad nature. He definitely doesn't want his wife to be contaminated by others, so it's best not to say anything. Sugu knew this, as many admirals' garrison offices were far away from human cities. Most ship girls are easy to talk to and will not get angry easily. Although he knows that the ship girl will not betray him, as an admiral, he does not want to see his ship girl talking to other men. It is a man's bad nature. Helena said, don't you also have this idea? I'm not denying it, I have this idea too. You have the nerve to say it openly and honestly, the ship girl has become your appendage. Sugu smiled, suddenly feeling that she was becoming more and more shameless, obviously unable to give love to everyone. But my initial thought was that it would be great to have a small house, but with the emergence of Lexington, Saratoga, and more people, I felt that I could no longer go on like that. Sugu didn't answer. He clapped his hands and said, Lafayette, come here. He pinched Lafayette's face and shook his head with some heartache. After Lafayette's transformation, he almost turned into a girl. As expected, he still liked the unaltered Lafayette. If she was still a little girl, it would be okay if she could be held in my arms now, but now it is difficult to hold her. I walked around the Kanyang headquarters and then sat on the stone bench downstairs. Helena said, I used to be in the combat team, and then I was transferred to my current position, which can be regarded as the command team. However, the personnel relations are still in the combat team. In short, it is a very troublesome thing. These stinky rules all come from those admirals. I learned it there. What kind of establishment, what kind of contract labor? When we come here this time, we don't have to deal with the combat team. We mainly deal with the command team and the salvage team. The salvage team, there are many people in that team, just drive the ship around the world, and then find the steel that carries the memories and history of the past. Finally, the steel should be moved and salvaged. Our command team, so to speak, is responsible for doing a lot of chores. While they were talking like this, a little girl came over and called Lafayette, who then ran away. Sugu looked around and saw many people walking outside. Ship girls are basically beautiful, and destroyers are also cute. From this, we can tell which ones are ship girls and which ones are ordinary people. There is a person lying on a lounge chair in the distance. The person with long blonde hair and a slim figure must be the ship girl. The other girl squatting outside washing rice must also be a ship girl. There was a card game under a tree, and I saw an ordinary-looking woman playing bridge there. Those must be ordinary people. Helena said, the one that is washed out is the light cruiser Emerald. The people who are playing bridge are two who were originally admirals, one is a completely ordinary person, and the other is a ship girl, Yamashiro. She always loses. Sugu said, Shan Cheng, they are unfortunate sisters after all. In the distance, Lafayette was playing with a group of little girls. They were all very cute children. Sugu said, a lot of destroyers. Helena said, they are not all destroyers, otherwise you would expect those admirals to come here to work. Who didn't have any dreams when they were young, but fate often plays tricks on people. Lafayette played with a group of destroyers, and then ran over to ask Sugu to play with them. Sugu originally refused. How could he, a big man like himself, play a game like the eagle catching the chicken with you little girls? But no matter how the destroyers come one after another and insist on pulling me away, there is really no way. A little girl asked, are you Lafayette's admiral? Yeah. Lafitte said her admiral was a very handsome and powerful man, but you don't look like him. I'm really sorry if he's not very handsome or powerful. In fact, Sugu did not play with the small destroyers, but just stood aside and watched, acting as a human-shaped pillar for the little girl to dodge around him. Looking back not long after, Sugu saw a man walking up to Helena. He looked ordinary, wearing glasses and looking polite. They sat together and talked, and Sugu saw Helena pointing at him, and then said a few more words. Sugu walked back and sat on the side. Helena moved towards him and then held his arm. She felt her arm sinking into some kind of softness, and then heard Helena say, "This is my admiral. I told you before, and now he has come to pick me up." Seeing Sugu, the man suddenly became angry and said, "Helena is your wedding ship, and you just come to her now." Sugu looked at Helena, and then saw Helena blinking at him, and he said, "Something happened. What's your last name?" "Su." "Admiral Su, are you even reluctant to give me a wedding ring?" "It's not that I won't give it, it's that I haven't given it yet." "Can't bear it? Can't afford it? Don't want to give it? Deal with it." Sugu said, "If the relationship is in place, the tab of the kin is also a ring. If the emotion is not in place, even if you give a diamond ring, it is still a tab. If you don't give it, there is a reason. Don't think too much, Helena is my wife, the wedding ship." The other person walked away angrily. Sugu said, "Okay, Helena, your suitor." Helena said, "There is no way, always come to me, that's all I can say." Sugu said, looking polite and gentle, he didn't think of speaking so rudely, as if I had done something. He complained like this, and then a voice sounded next to him. "You neither want to show up and shoulder the responsibilities as an admiral, nor do you blame others for pursuing Helena. You are gone, missing, and dead, and you still want your ship girl to keep your integrity? A gentle lady and a gentleman are so jealous, then you are a charming woman with such a sinful and obscene amount of breasts. If you don't keep it safe, don't blame others for pursuing her. They are sincere and will naturally get angry when they see you being so indifferent. You speak so loudly, but I saw a kinpul ring and didn't give it to you. Diamonds are forever, and one will be passed down forever. The ship girl likes diamond rings, because she hopes that she and the admiral can last forever. If you can't give a diamond ring, the ship girl will wear it. You won't feel aggrieved even if you wear the ring. The ship girl is such a lovely being." Sugu looked in the direction of the sound and never noticed a woman with long blonde hair walking over, but she also had good hearing. Helena said, "Enterprise. Looking for the lost ship girl." Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 278. He stretched his hands to his smooth back, but couldn't close the buckle no matter what. He obviously bought the underwear just a few days ago, and it already has the largest cup size in the store, but it was still difficult to put it on. "Admiral, help me." "Okay, Veneto, pull your breasts in." "Even if you say so, I really can't do it." "There's nothing I can do about it, I'm going to try harder." Snapped. "The hanger is broken." There is a sunny sky outside the window. Holding the ear of the coffee cup, the fragrant aroma of coffee fills the air. The cafeteria was bustling with people. Bismarck, Bizai, Lion, were all battleships. They wanted to say hello and let everyone sit together. Looking around, they suddenly realized that a vacuum zone had been formed with themselves as the center, and let out a sigh. Of course I knew the reason why the battleship was unwilling to sit with him. After thinking about it, he didn't say hello again. At this time, I suddenly saw that other people's breakfasts had white porridge and side dishes. When I lowered my head, I only saw that I only had white porridge. All the work of managing the canteen was given to Fuzu, the flat-chested Fuzu. Although I know that as a woman, flat chest is a very distressing thing, but it is not good to be treated differently for this reason. Fuzu, why do you have side dishes for them but not for me? The voice echoed in the cafeteria. When everyone looked at him, they hesitated a little, wondering if he had spoken too much. Maybe Fuzu had just forgotten. People were coming and going in the cafeteria, and then when they saw Fuzang coming, they quickly showed an apologetic smile. If there are no side dishes, there won't be any, and it won't be good if it's embarrassing. What? Veneto? Nothing. Well, I'm missing a little side dish, but you know, this is white porridge. You also need coffee for breakfast. You really know how to eat it? As for the side dishes. Then he saw Fuzu reaching out to move the plate on the table forward a little distance. Your side dishes are here. As the dinner plate moved forward, I immediately saw the side dishes that belonged to me, and I suddenly felt a little distressed and embarrassed. Every time I lower my head, my view is always blocked by something, which is really a bad experience. Moreover, there is too much fat on the chest, which is too much of a burden when fighting. But no matter what, I don't want to have breasts that are too big. When I returned to the dormitory, I saw a dazzling array of food on the table. The little devil Aviel sat next to him, holding his nose and eating the food bit by bit. Take a bite and frown, so aggrieved. If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. Is it necessary to force yourself like this? Yogurt, papaya, yams, peanuts, Aviel, don't you feel tired from eating so much breast-enhancing food every day? You are still a child, so there is no need to be so anxious. Turning back to look at the little angel Kamichia, the little girl stretched out her hand to cover her sister's chest. Kamichia, you don't have to help your sister all the time. Even rubbing her is of no use. Besides, she is still young, so there is really no need. When he came out of the dormitory, he saw his admiral lifting up the Prince of Wales. He put his palm on his forehead, lifted his bangs, and looked at the Prince of Wales, who was lifted in the air with his lips pursed, looking unhappy. Admiral, since you asked me to be the secretary-ship, I have something to say to you. Don't tease the Prince of Wales. Although she looks like a child, she is actually a battleship. For a battleship, the Prince of Wales has the body of a little girl, and is always regarded as a little girl by the admiral. As a battleship, having the body of a child like that is indeed a very distressing thing. Every time I see the Prince of Wales walking by the pier with grass roots in his mouth, feeling a little disappointed, it is difficult for me to persuade him at that time. After all, with my mature and plump figure, trying to persuade him will only have the opposite effect. But no matter what, as an admiral, is it fun to tease the little girl Prince of Wales all the time? The Prince of Wales is really not a child. If you give her balloons or toys, she won't play with them and will bite you. When I saw Helena chasing Utopia on the side of the town square, I felt a little baffled, and then I saw Lafitte laughing there. What happened to them, and why did Helena pursue Utopia? Then I immediately heard Lafitte say, Sister Veneto, I just bought a ham and wanted to cut it up and eat it, so I asked Helena to borrow a cutting board. Chopping board? Where does Helena have a cutting board? She doesn't care about the kitchen. Lafitte pointed to his chest and said, Sister Helena, this is the chopping block. So you little girls, don't always make fun of Helena's weaknesses. It's not funny. The Queen of Heaven, I'm troubling you again. What's wrong? Another button on my chest popped off. It seems to have gotten bigger recently. It's really troublesome. I had a fight with Colorado in the afternoon. I heard the curses and wanted to refute but couldn't. Veneto, you papaya, peach, watermelon, basketball. He wanted to retaliate against the other party, but looked at the other party's barren figure and sighed. Admiral, don't always run into my room, and occasionally go visit Lexington and Saratoga. Didn't you always say that small breasts are a rare resource? He patted away his admiral's sinful hands and covered his chest with both hands, but a large area of white greasy hair was exposed. Even though it was a wedding ship, the admiral kept running to his room, which was a little bit unbearable. The sun shines all over the city. Aviel stood in front of the door. Sister Camicia, Sister Veneto, she hasn't gotten up until 10 o'clock. Do you want to wake her up? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 279. She has long golden hair, a delicate and gorgeous appearance, and wears willow leaf earrings. Enterprise was wearing a shirt and a brown windbreaker. Although her chest was not as big as Helena's, it was not much inferior. Underneath the windbreaker were black straight pants and high heels. She was sitting on a stone bench with half of her high heels off. Her toes swayed, and her high heels also swayed, making her look relaxed and casual. What a pair of long white silk legs. Her words made Sugu feel ashamed. For Helena like this, Helena who was poked and prodded by herself, it was indeed too much to not give her a ring. Of course, even after being told this, Sugu would not give Helena a ring on the spot just to show his sincerity. If you were given the ring only after being provoked, who would you become? Even if you want to give, you have to choose a suitable time. Before Sugu said anything about the Enterprise, Helena retorted first, saying, "Enterprise, you guy who was taught a lesson by Lafitte, don't mind your own business. I'm not interested in an admiral who likes to harass his own ship's wife. I'm just more interested. I hate Chen Jun, he always hangs around in front of me and attacks the ship's wife who has an admiral, it's very mean." Enterprise waved his hand towards Helena and said, "I won't pay much attention to the household affairs of your townhouse. I can't finish it. Besides, I'm not a pimp. I just say something if I can't stand the heartless man. You, the client, are all no matter what, I don't care even more." After saying these words, she then looked at Sugu and said, "You are Helena's admiral? So you are the one who repelled the deep-sea flagship?" Sugu nodded. "Tisk, tisk, tisk, I didn't expect it to be so powerful. It can defeat the deep-sea flagship with thin arms and thin legs." Of course he didn't defeat the deep-sea flagship. Sugu looked at Helena. "Does that mean, does the Enterprise like to talk like this?" Helena had a tacit understanding and showed a helpless expression. Sugu said, "Of course it was my ship girl who defeated the deep-sea flagship. Isn't the joke funny? She has a casual character." Saying this, the company said, "Can you tell me what happened? The report has been written and can be given to you tomorrow." "Tomorrow, it's hard to wait, and those reports are too false, so just tell me directly." Sugu frowned. Regarding this point, even though his sister-in-law Saratoga had told him the story of the battle. But what she told was entirely a story with her as the protagonist. There were countless exaggerated plots in it, and the authenticity was undoubtedly greatly compromised. Sugu thought about it and recounted what happened, skipping any unclear, vague, or exaggerated parts. The company said, "With such a fleet, why is it still unknown? If the ship girl doesn't attack, it doesn't consume resources. Even if the resources are less, it doesn't matter. Even if you have a powerful ship girl, you don't necessarily need to be famous. As an admiral, are you willing to remain ordinary like this? Everything is brought to me by the ship girls, mainly what kind of life they want to live. It's true. I am the kind of person without big ambitions. Whatever the ship girl wants to do, I'll do it with her. Of course, I have no big ambitions. What I want to do now is to find everyone, which includes initially agreeing to Xiaoxi's request and building a large garrison. If my battle group had a fleet like you, the entire sea would be able to flow unimpeded. Deep Sea Yamato, that is a super powerful deep sea flagship, but you were defeated like this. It is okay. But you, if you want to live a quiet life with your ship girl, it's not that easy to truly live a quiet life. If you don't want to leave, naturally some people will push you to leave. I do not think so. The most taboo thing about talking is to be shallow and deep, even when facing a ship girl. At this time, Sugu responded casually and would not tell all his situation and thoughts. However, the company obviously had no intention of preaching, and some very ordinary conversations followed. Regardless of what the enterprise has in mind, since she promised to provide resources, that's all. As for any other purpose, she can only cope with the changes by staying the same. Of course I slept with Lafayette at night. Why did I sleep on the sofa when the little girl was here? Absurd. Now Sugu is very picky. When we went out on the yacht the next day, Helena didn't even say hello to anyone and just left with Sugu. It was obvious that there were no rules at the ship girl headquarters. Lafayette did not go to school. Although Sugu wanted her to go to school, the little girl followed her out and said, "Anyway, I will leave with the Admiral then. In this case, we can only let Lafayette's friends and the elementary school she attends inform her that Lafayette will not be going to class today. The procedures related to dropping out of school will be done when you leave, but it doesn't really matter whether you do it or not, just to have a beginning and an end. After all, I can teach in my own garrison, and Lexington, Zeppelin, and everyone else can teach, so my confidence will not be worse than in these ordinary elementary schools." As usual, he drove his yacht away from the ship's headquarters and moved forward under Helena's command. Although Helena has only been there once, for a ship girl, the possibility of getting lost at sea is too small. At this time, it is necessary to say that it is better to use a yacht. If it is a big ship, it may be stranded at any time. Of course, there is another problem for Sugu on the yacht, that is, he cannot go out in windy and rainy weather, and the small yacht may be overturned. After all, yachts don't have magical abilities like ship girls. Standing on the sea is like being rooted in the sea. Unless you have an idea, no matter how big the waves are, don't try to overturn them. Go ashore at the dock and lock the yacht in the dock. Looking around at this time, I could see hawkers everywhere, just a simple rattan basket filled with various fish and shrimps, and a cutting board and a knife. The smell of fish came over. There was wastewater everywhere, scraped fish scales and discarded internal organs were randomly thrown on the roadside. A skinny kitten was knocked and ran away screaming. Old ladies wearing headscarves, children wearing only pants and bare upper body and feet, and fussy vendors. After all, the world is not very developed. This is the real side of the world. Passed by a few coconut trees and a few small houses. Advisor Sue asked, "Helena, is this where you met Kent?" "Yes. I met her here and talked to her for a few words. She said she lived here. I asked her to come and play with me when she had time, but she never came to me. So is there anything I can do?" "How did you tell that something was wrong with her?" "Well, female intuition. Didn't you ask her? After all, Kent and I are not very familiar with each other. We have never gone on an attack together. We would say hello when we meet, and it would not be a big deal. Weren't you all in the same townhouse before? Shouldn't you be sisters? To put it coldly, the connection between us depends on your presence, Admiral." At this time, Lafayette walked around in front of the surrounding stalls, looking here and there. She is a very energetic and cute little girl. Although she is also a ship girl, she undoubtedly receives much less attention than Helena. Forget it, let's not talk about this issue. Then Sugu saw a stall on the roadside with various fruits on it. Lafayette, do you want to eat some fruit?" Soon after, Sugu bought some fruits at a roadside stall. Lafayette leaned against a railing and gnawed on the fruit skin while Sugu talked to the boss. "Did you grow it at home? It's very sweet. Yes. I heard that you have a ship girl here. Do you know where it is? Can't, I've been here for a while. If I want to find her, where should I go? There is no business now, but the boss is happy to talk to everyone. Of course, one of the reasons is that Sugu bought a lot of things. The boss asked, are you her friends? No, we are her admirals. Ship girl? Admiral. The boss said this, he obviously knew what kind of relationship this was. After all, he is a person who lives along the coast and is not far from the city, so he still has some perspective. He looked at several people with suspicious eyes and thought for a moment. Whether the people in front of him were bragging or not had nothing to do with him. He sprinkled his fruit with water. A cloud in the sky was blown away by the wind, and the sun shone on the street. There were many people around, people coming and going. The sounds of hawking and quarrels came and went. Someone was slaughtering a big fish on the roadside and hanging it on an iron hook. Lafayette ran over to see it, and then ran back. The boss said, Kent, the boss of the company she works for is named Zhu Minghui. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 280. The man named Zhu Minghui, with short hair parted to the side and a smile on his face, sat on the cable pile beside the pier. He was wearing a tailored suit and holding a large bouquet of red roses. The flower language of red roses is passionate love. At this time, he looked out of place compared to the people around him who were making a living on the dock. Someone greeted him, Boss Zhu. He smiled back. He wears a pair of black-rimmed glasses, and looks like a student who has just stepped out of college, with an innocent look on his face. In fact, he is called Boss Zhu. He has been running the company for many years and is over 30 years old, but he still looks young. Of course, if you really think that he is young and easy to bully, you are totally wrong. He himself has no family background and was born in Kahaha. When he was young, in order to climb up the ladder and live a high-class life, he married the eldest daughter of a local big family with his pretty good looks. Although she is called a eldest lady, it is actually more appropriate to say that she is a eldest sister. If I use a more euphemistic term, she means she has a plump body. If I use more vicious words, I mean she is a fat pig. It can be said that a wife like Ruizu would be willing to cut herself off and dare to bring down the emperor. Anyway, in order to get ahead, be cruel to others and even more cruel to yourself. But when he got married, no one could say anything more. All he could say was that he could let go. However, he was able to get such an evaluation as ruthless. In fact, during the nearly 10 years since he became his wife, he used various means to gradually capture the company owned by the big family he married into, and then directly married his wife. A clean and tidy divorce. People who know the inside story will almost give a thumbs up, praise the good means, and say wolf-eyed. But thanks to the appearance of innocence, in the eyes of uninformed people. Who could have tolerated the overbearing eldest daughter of that family back then, so what he did was not surprising. On the contrary, there were still people who pitied him. At this moment, he was sitting there holding roses, and the passers-by knew what he wanted to do. Come here, come here. Let's not talk about Zhu Minghui's good or bad qualities. Of course, there are so many people watching the excitement, and they come to report the news at this time. Upon hearing the news, Zhu Minghui quickly stood up, patted the dust on his body, and looked at the girl in Gothic clothes walking over from a distance. The girl is beautiful, of course. If she is not beautiful, how can she be liked by Zhu Minghui? But the girl is different from ordinary girls. She has beautiful long silver hair, Gothic-style clothes with large cuffs with layers of ruffles, and wears black and white knee-high socks and leather shoes. But it is said to be the most beautiful scenery at this pier. All this satisfied Zhu Minghui. The only thing he was dissatisfied with was his own expression. The panic was clearly visible on the other party's face. Zhu Minghui walked up, held the roses and handed them out, saying, "Ms. Kent, these are the flowers for you." Kent lowered his head and did not answer, whispering, "I don't want it." Zhu Minghui laughed, holding a large bouquet of roses and trying to stuff it into the other person's hand, but Kent still didn't take it, and then there was a popping sound, and all the roses fell to the ground. When such a situation suddenly appeared, Kent was a little panicked and explained in a low voice, "I said I don't want it, and I said I won't like you. I have an admiral, so don't send me flowers," she said, as she has an admiral. Of course, a ship girl will not accept roses from others. Faced with rejection, Zhu Minghui didn't care. He said, "I picked the roses off and then used scissors to cut off the thorns on them little by little. Well, but since you don't like it, just throw them away. It doesn't matter. I made the decision on my own." Regarding Kent's performance, there was no trace of resentment on his face, and he could do it long ago without showing emotion or anger. "Speaking of which, Kent, I bought you a lot of clothes, but why have I never seen you wear them? You've had this one for a long time. I bought you a lot of dresses." "No, I don't need it. I asked a lot of people to help me with their opinions, but the most important thing is your opinion, but you don't want to go shopping with me, so I can't help it. New clothes should be on the market now, Miss Kent. I can invite you. Will you go together?" "Sorry, no need, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first." Kent left in a hurry. Then Zhu Minghui watched Kent leave completely. The smile on his face disappeared instantly. Then he picked up the flowers on the ground and threw them into the sea. "Kent still refuses to accept you." Zhu Minghui looked over and saw that the owner of the voice was a tall man, his subordinate, who had followed him when he was fighting for control of the company. "Li Qi, it's not that easy. She said she has an admiral and it's impossible for her to accept me anymore." At this time, Li Qi smiled obscenely and said, "I think it would be better to just push her down." Zhu Minghui looked at Li Qi, sneered, and thought to himself, "You are still here just because of your past feelings, so you don't have to kill the donkey. What kind of intelligence?" He said, "You idiot, Kent is a ship girl, and she is a ship girl. One slap from her is enough to make us two into meat pies. If you push her down, don't you look at the 2 ounces of flesh on your body. But she is very weak, isn't she? She doesn't even know how to resist." She was weak, so at that time, she believed whatever we said. Even if she suspected that we had told lies, even if she knew that we had told lies, she would believe us when we said that she caused the accident. As soon as we were firm, she felt that she had made a mistake and made a mistake. Yes, she was very weak. If it were another person with that kind of strength, she would have walked away long ago, but she didn't. She didn't, but if you make her anxious, who knows what will happen, it will be a big bomb. Zhu Minghui recalled the first time he saw the other person. What was the situation like? Pulling goods from the sea to a nearby city, I suddenly met a deep-sea ship girl. As someone who deals with the sea, I am no stranger to a deep-sea ship girl. At that time, I cursed the nearby admiral for his inaction and quickly ordered everyone to return. However, they were still bombarded, and I was in a bad mood at that time. Next, a bombardment flew over from a distance, splashing a huge water column beside the ship. It was stronger firepower than before. At that time, he thought that everything was going to be over, but the subsequent shelling did not hit his ship, but instead sunk the deep-sea ship girl. Then I saw a girl sailing to the side of the ship and said loudly, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't hit you, did I?" Looking at the girl, my heart felt hot, and I said jokingly, "You see what's happening on my boat, what do you think?" Then he immediately saw the girl's panic expression and said, "I don't know, I'm sorry. If you do this, I will suffer heavy losses." It is said that the ship girl can see through people's hearts. At that time, I had no ill intentions, it was just a joke. Then if this is the case, the other side will believe it immediately. But I don't have any money. Then just give me a job and it will be deducted from your salary when the time comes. I remember that even I felt a little baffled at that time, that the girl actually agreed, like an innocent child. She is innocent, beautiful, cute, and a little weak. She will believe whatever others say. She seems to be a girl who trusts people easily. At that time, I felt that the other person was really cute, and I wanted to get her, especially since she was a ship girl, and I thought that the feeling must be different from that of ordinary people. However, after pursuing her for such a long time, let alone being his girlfriend, she has not even touched her hand. In the past, it was not that he didn't pursue anyone. He had financial resources and good looks. He often behaved tenderly and considerately. Of course, all tenderness and considerateness were just wanting to go to bed, but no matter what, those young girls sometimes attracted. The trick is done. Only this time it seems to have failed. At this time, Zhu Minghui looked at the direction Kent left and sneered, "Bitch, I will kill you one day." On the other side, Sugu heard some rumors and information from the owner of the fruit stall, and also got the address of Kent's company. "Helena, go on. Lafite, and you." Each person was given a piece of fruit, and then the three of them headed towards their destination. Helena said, "That boss's words don't sound like lies. As a ship girl, she can easily see through people's hearts." Sugu said, "Helena, don't be too superstitious. If he himself has been deceived, you ship ladies will certainly not be able to see the problem from him. I just think, how does he, an outsider, know so much? It may be that he spreads rumors, and then I believe it. Anyway, I think it's a bit ridiculous for a ship girl to be forced to work. There are so many ridiculous things in the world, and Kent is very weak. Every time I see her, I feel like she is going to cry at any moment." Sugu said, "Forget it, I'm going to find her anyway. We'll know when the time comes."